Hello everybody, Zealous Talon here with another video review for you of a figure I've had for a while but just haven't gotten around to doing yet. This is the Power Rangers Jungle Fury Transforming Jungle Pride Megazord. I got this secondhand, so for a fairly decent price. I actually got this off of eBay bundled with the Roarmax Megazord, which I will do after this. So, forgive me if at any point I call this the Geki Toja. I know this is neither the Geki Toja figure or the barely altered deluxe Jungle Pride Megazord, but I just find it less awkward to say Geki Toja. So anyway, we have three cats here, which is interesting because this is really the only really up until this point there hadn't been a combining animal themed Megazord where all of the creatures were sort of from the same family. I mean, granted they're not the same genus since a cheetah is from Felis and the jaguar and tiger would be from Panthera, but anyway, so you have the red tiger, which is the biggest and kind of awkward looking. As has been stated many times before, he looks kind of like a mutant gorilla than a tiger, but he's cool. He's got a lot of style to him. The claws are a little weak sauce, but just the burly appearance really fits the idea of Geki Red having the unbreakable body and just being, you know, the tough one. So you can kind of move his head around for transformation. The mouth opens for transformation. He doesn't have a single joint that's not used for transformation, but the net result is that he's actually fairly articulated, and if you get creative, you can get some poses out of him. So the cheetah and jaguar are basically assembled identically, but they are completely different molds. They just move similarly. The cheetah's neck stops at 45 degrees, whereas the jaguars will go in line with his body. And then the cheetah definitely has a more gracile build as opposed to the jaguar being a bit more robust, which is nice. So that is a very real distinction between the animals. The cheetah's tail is held a little bit more straight, although the jaguar's is longer. I'm not sure about how correct that is. I'd have to look those guys up again. But one thing that is nice is that the cheetah has some rounded spots on her, whereas the jaguar sort of has squarish rings. And the spot pattern of a jaguar is basically to have rings with a spot in the middle, so he does have more of a leopard pattern, if you will, but we'll forgive him that because he's already blue, so the more we nitpick, the more points he loses. But he is probably my favorite. I really do like the jaguar. He's got a proper cat build to him, and he's just, you know, he's got a lot of style to him, and I don't mean the sunglasses. I just like him. I like blue as a color, so usually I'm a bit biased towards a blue Zord as long as it's good. Principal differences from the deluxe size figure is notably with the cheetah and the jaguar, you are missing a bit of paint. The cheetah had some gold spots going along her side. The black lining extended up to her neck. The same goes for the jaguar. He's missing black on the neck. Missing black around his limbs here. So, and then also with the jaguar, these sunglasses, they don't lift up to reveal his actual eyes. By far the most altered, though, is the tiger, because this version of the figure does not have electronics. Also, all of their tails were changed to PVC. I heard the original figure was ABS, but on the one hand, they sculpted a miniaturized version of the fanny pack, as it was so infamously known, that held the batteries. So And then he doesn't have any sort of button even molded in here, but he does have it still molded in on the lower section. But the joint is still there to manually get the Savage Spin and Super Kick. So he's just as articulated, it's just without the nuisance of the external battery and the weight of that motor. And obviously, despite the fist being transparent orange without lights, without electronics, he can't have light up fists, so whatever. But to get these guys transformed is very simple. We'll start with the Jaguar and Cheetah transform essentially the same way. You pluck off their tails, fold their heads up, and then at the elbow you'll flip the arms forward, and then at the knee you'll flip the back legs up. And there you go. The Tiger is only slightly more involved. Again, you take off the tail. The back legs, straighten them down, fold the paws down, flip them up until they click, like so. And you can rotate the paws to, I won't say reveal the fists, they were there the entire time, just not quite as obvious. Just plug them on top of these two. Cheetah is meant to be the right leg and Jaguar the left. They are cut at an angle, as it were, so. And then what I do is, there's a little black horn here and you just lift that up. And then what I like to do is just bring the jaw all the way back. And then as you fold the head down, it'll kind of, it helps it rest really properly. And if you don't do that, the face kind of has a tendency to collapse if you put any pressure on the head, but this keeps it pretty firmly in place. But there you have the Jungle Pride Megazord, also known as the Geki Toja. Now, people have mentioned that this is smaller than the Deluxe, but I find it scales pretty well with a lot of the other modern Megazords that have come out of Power Rangers since they're scaled down. I mean, here he is with the Clawzord, and I mean, he is smaller, but the Clawzord is kind of a big, bulky figure. I mean, the top of his head comes up about right. It's just his face. You notice that he's, basically wearing a big tiger hat. So his face is a little bit lower, but really this guy was always sort of meant to be a smaller and leaner guy. But the problem, I really always had kind of a problem with this figure. The leg proportions are a little weird with the cat legs just kind of sticking out like this. It would have been pretty neat if they found a way to get them to scrunch in. Like with Voltron, when you flip the heads up, it kind of the shoulders kind of compress a little bit. And that would have been nice, just because he's supposed to be a very lithe and agile fighter, which is why he doesn't really have thick armor or too much ornamentation going on. He kind of looks like he's wearing a red bodysuit and different colored knee-high boots, which is just kind of, it's an odd look, but it's grown on me. It's just that the toy doesn't communicate the agility as well as it should, which I think that's why a lot of people liked the Jungle Master Megazord better, was because it was bulkier, and since it's not particularly articulated, it can convey that feeling of power, since it can afford to be bulky. But this guy, he should have been a lot more posable to communicate the agility aspect. Another thing you can do, even though he's more of a punch kick kind of fighter, you can take the tails, starting with the tiger tail, just slide that in, pop the cheetah tail on top of it and the jaguar tail below. And he has the jungle Setsukan or jungle San Setsukan, but basically a 3-section staff if you ever saw either the series. He didn't use it as much, but Jet Li used one at the end of Fearless when he fought, I think it was Ken Watanabe's character, was the Japanese guy that was fighting with him with a katana in like that final battle. But I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, there's not too many default Megazords that don't use a sword as their weapon, so this is pretty interesting. And he's definitely unique. And that's really the best he's got going for him.